Hey everyone, it's Jennifer Swati here, going to be discussing Module 11, which is about gifts for students or staff. The first thing we need to do is have a working definition of what a gift is. So for the purposes of this assignment in this chapter, gifts are described as personal goods or services for students or staff that's purchased with school funds. Staff items must be for personal use, so you can't use school funds to buy things for the classroom and then call it a gift. It needs to be something personal that leaves the school when the teacher transfers or if they should be terminated. And the giving of gifts absolutely needs to be governed by a set of guidelines, like everything else with school funding. Gifts for students can be used in a couple of ways. One is as an incentive for fundraising, and the other is for awards for special achievements. As far as fundraising incentives go, gifts for fundraising incentives must only be given to students who participate in the fundraising event, and they must be purchased with funds raised by the groups receiving the gift. So if a student government does a fundraiser, the monies from that fundraiser shouldn't be used to purchase a gift for students in the business club. And the gifts must not favor one group over another. Special achievement gifts is another area of gift giving for students. The gifts in these areas must be nominal in value, and they have to be age appropriate. Gifts should also they can come from general funds, but they could also come from departmental funds. For example, like the fine arts program or funds may have enough to do theater or music awards for their students. Athletic funds could be used for athletic awards and that kind of thing. It could be medals or certificates, small little, I know I got like a theater award when I was in high school that was just a kind of a little figurine that had my name engraved on it, and so stuff like that. When it comes to gifts for staff members, they should be guided by written procedures and coordinated by a committee. That committee should review those guidelines and the contribution to the appropriate funding. For example, the Staff Remembrance Fund or the Staff Appreciation Fund. And they should meet annually for reviewing purposes to go over those guidelines and the contributions to those funds. At both of my buildings that I'm at, we have this committee. I served on that committee for 2 years, and now I don't have to serve on that committee anymore. And it was called Staff Remembrance and Appreciation Fund, and so I was just a part of that committee. Some of the guidelines that should be considered when using school funds to purchase gifts for staff, that money in this fund should come from annual dues or staff donations. For example, if you have a vending machine in the teacher's lounge, that money should probably go into that Staff Remembrance Fund. At one of my buildings, we did raffles for like an extra jean day or a long lunch period, and all the money collected through those raffles were put into the Staff Remembrance and Appreciation Fund. And that money should be managed by a committee. On the committees that I served, we did manage that. And our chapter recommended that those items be tangible gifts, not cash, and of low dollar value. And the reason for that is for the items to avoid those items appearing to be disguised wages for tax purposes. Another area that sometimes comes up with gifts for staff and student are special efforts for specific students or staff. And this is for students or staff coping with illness or a catastrophic event in their lives. And the book suggested, and I would agree, having dealt with this during my time on one of those committees, is to seek advice from your district accounting department to know that any cash or cash equivalent that an employee receives from the school is part of that employee's taxable wages, And so then that must be reported to the district office, which can sometimes come back to actually do more hurt than help to someone who's going through a catastrophic event. So the best approach is to seek out a parent organization like PTA to help you coordinate the gifting and then use a local bank for the handling of the collected funds. And then another approach that we've used in the past was the use of staff donations for those specific events. And so some final thoughts wrapping up is just that staff and student gifts purchased with school funds should be examined through procedures set up to ensure accountability of those school funds in order to ensure that everything you're doing is appropriate and good use, and that when an audit comes through that you don't have to go back and explain yourself for just trying to do something nice for your staff or your students in your building. Thanks, everyone.